Get ready to uncover one of the most intense and eye-opening chapters of the Book of Enoch. Imagine a world plunged into chaos, where forbidden secrets from the heavens are unleashed upon the earth, forever altering the fate of humanity. In Chapter 8, the Watchers, led by enigmatic figures like Azazel and Semjaza, bring knowledge that should have remained hidden, causing dangerous and irreversible transformations. Did you know they were the ones who taught humans how to forge weapons, master the art of war, practice sorcery, and even embrace vanity that corrupted human purity? The impact of these revelations goes far beyond what you can imagine, affecting not only mankind, but all of creation. This is the moment where the world begins its descent into total destruction. But it doesn't stop there. As chaos advances, the narrative reaches a thrilling climax, where the voices of the righteous finally cry out to the heavens. What happens when the Creator decides to intervene? What will be the fate of the Watchers and humanity? Join me on this epic journey, because this chapter is more than just a story. It's a warning, a powerful reflection on the boundaries between the sacred and the forbidden. Buckle up, because the revelation is about to begin. Chapter 8 of the Book of Enoch delves into the impact of the forbidden knowledge shared by the Watchers, the fallen angels who abandoned their celestial duties and mingled with the daughters of men. In this chapter, Enoch highlights the specific skills introduced by the Watchers and how these teachings plunged humanity into corruption and spiritual decay. Azazel, one of the leaders of the Watchers, is identified as a key figure responsible for revealing divine secrets to humans. He taught the crafting of lethal weapons such as swords and shields and revealed the use of metals to forge armor, intensifying violence and warfare on Earth. Additionally, he introduced the art of makeup and bodily adornments, promoting vanity and lust, diverting human hearts from divine paths. Semjaza, another prominent Watcher, taught sorcery, enchantments, and astrology, granting humans access to forbidden supernatural powers. This knowledge led to a rise in idolatry as humanity worshipped occult forces and sought power through dark practices. The earth became a place of depravity, with humans relying on these sinister arts to fulfill their selfish desires. The spread of this forbidden knowledge not only corrupted humanity, but also disrupted the balance of all creation. The creatures of the earth began to suffer from the angelic interference, and the giants, offspring of the Watchers, exacerbated the destruction by consuming natural resources and spreading terror among men. The righteous, horrified by the state of humanity and the earth, began crying out to the heavens, pleading for justice. Their voices reached the Creator, and this chapter sets the stage for the impending judgment of the Watchers. Enoch, as a prophet, witnesses the advancing corruption and foresees the divine intervention necessary to restore order to the world. This chapter marks a turning point in the narrative, illustrating the consequences of misusing heavenly power and the steadfastness of divine justice against rebellious forces. In the depths of time, as the divine laws unraveled, a fracture opened between heaven and earth. The earth groaned under the weight of forbidden knowledge as the Watchers descended, their radiant forms corrupted by desire. Their feet touched the soil, and with them came an age of reckoning. These celestial beings, once guardians of the divine order, abandoned their posts to indulge in mortal temptations. They imparted forbidden arts, shattering the fragile balance of humanity's innocence. Metallurgy turned into weapons of conquest, and the purity of creation twisted into something profane. Fire, once a gift of warmth, became a harbinger of war, igniting endless battles among men. Beneath their influence, humanity's heart grew dark. The wisdom of heaven transformed into a curse on the land, driving nations to rebellion and greed. The skies, once serene, became a battlefield for unseen forces, as cries for justice rose from the depths of despair. The Watchers, in their arrogance, mocked the cries of the innocent, oblivious to the echoes of judgment stirring in the heavens above. As corruption spread, the ground itself rebelled. Crops withered, rivers ran dry, and the earth's bounty was consumed by insatiable greed. But the greatest sin of all came from the unnatural unions of the Watchers and mankind. Giants, the Nephilim, arose, creatures of immense size and boundless hunger. They devoured everything in their path, including their own kin. The heavens darkened as cries of anguish ascended to the Creator's ears. The just trembled, for they saw the coming storm, yet the wicked reveled in their transient power. All of creation groaned, waiting for the scales of justice to tip, heralding the wrath of the divine. The giants roamed the earth, their shadows engulfing villages, their roars echoing like thunder across the lands. They were monstrous, towering abominations born of unholy unions. Their insatiable hunger knew no bounds, devouring crops, animals, and eventually turning on humanity itself. Despair swept the earth as the Nephilim transformed creation into a land of terror. The cries of the oppressed pierced the heavens. Humanity, battered and broken, sought refuge but found none. The Watchers, arrogant in their rebellion, reveled in their offspring's destruction. They believed their power was unchallengeable, their reign unending. The knowledge they shared, alchemy, warfare, sorcery, only deepened humanity's fall into chaos and despair. Forests fell beneath the giants' feet, and rivers turned crimson with the blood of their victims. The balance of creation crumbled as ecosystems collapsed, unable to sustain the devastation wrought by these colossal beings. The earth, once a vibrant garden, became a wasteland, groaning under the weight of corruption. Meanwhile, the heavens watched in silence. The righteous among humanity lifted their voices in anguish, pleading for deliverance. Their cries intertwined with the wails of the earth itself as creation lamented its defilement. The silence from the celestial realms was deafening. But in that stillness, a storm began to brew. The Watchers' arrogance blinded them to the gathering judgment. Their mockery of divine law fueled their own undoing as unseen forces began to stir. Above, the throne of the Creator blazed with light, its radiance breaking through the shadowy veil covering the earth. The whispers of justice became a roar, heralding the rise of divine retribution. And so, the stage was set for the inevitable reckoning. The earth trembled in anticipation, for judgment was near, and the fall of the Watchers would become the ultimate lesson in the consequences of defying the divine. As the corruption deepened, the heavens could no longer remain silent. The anguished prayers of the righteous and the groans of creation ascended to the throne of the Almighty. From the celestial heights, archangels gathered, their forms radiant with divine purpose. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel were summoned to execute a judgment that would shake both heaven and earth. The Creator, in his infinite justice, decreed the downfall of the Watchers and their monstrous progeny. A cosmic plan unfolded, one that would cleanse the earth of its corruption and restore the balance shattered by rebellion. The four archangels were tasked with separate missions, each carrying the weight of divine authority. Michael, the commander of heaven's armies, was assigned to bind the Watchers and bring their rebellion to an end. Gabriel would confront the giants, the Nephilim, who had brought unparalleled devastation. Raphael was charged with purifying the earth, healing the wounds inflicted by the sins of the Watchers. Uriel, the bearer of wisdom, would deliver the decree of judgment to humanity, warning them of the wrath to come. The skies darkened as the archangels descended, their brilliance piercing the oppressive shadows covering the earth. Humanity looked on in awe and terror as these divine warriors moved with purpose, their voices echoing with the authority of heaven. The earth trembled beneath their feet, signaling that the time of reckoning had arrived. The Watchers, for all their arrogance, began to sense the shift. Their once unshakable confidence faltered as they saw the forces of heaven aligning against them. They scrambled for refuge, but there was no escape. The giants, too, roared in defiance, but their cries would soon be silenced. The balance of power began to tip, and the first act of judgment was set into motion. The Watchers, once mighty and proud, felt the wrath of heaven closing in on them. Their once commanding presence now trembled before the approaching divine justice. Michael, the warrior of heaven, descended with an army of celestial beings, their brilliance cutting through the darkness that had enveloped the earth. One by one, the Watchers were confronted. Michael's voice, like thunder, echoed across the realms as he pronounced their doom. These fallen beings, who had once reveled in their defiance, now faced chains forged by divine decree. Their power crumbled as the bonds of justice tightened around them, rendering them powerless against the will of the Almighty. The giants, the Nephilim, roared in rebellion, their colossal forms towering over the destruction they had wrought. Gabriel descended to confront them, his presence radiant with divine authority. The battle that ensued was one of cosmic proportions, angels clashing against the corrupted offspring of the Watchers. The giant's strength, unmatched on earth, faltered against the purity of heaven's light. As the giants fell, their immense forms shook the ground, their cries of defeat echoing across the land. Gabriel's mission was clear: to cleanse the earth of their corruption. His actions brought the first glimmers of hope to humanity, a sign that the reign of terror was coming to an end. Meanwhile, the cries of the just continued to rise, their faith unshaken despite the horrors they had endured. These prayers, like a chorus, bolstered the resolve of the heavenly host. Humanity's pleas became a force that amplified the divine will, a reminder of the Creator's connection to his creation. The first victories of the archangels marked the beginning of a new era. The rebellion was being dismantled piece by piece, but the ultimate reckoning was still to come. The battle raged on as the heavens continued to impose divine judgment upon the earth. While Michael and Gabriel brought swift retribution to the Watchers and their monstrous progeny, the earth itself still groaned under the weight of their corruption. The purification of the planet had become an urgent necessity, and it was Raphael, the Archangel of healing and restoration, who was chosen to execute this monumental task. Raphael descended like a healing balm, his very presence radiating with the power to cleanse. He was tasked with eradicating the toxic effects of the Watchers' influence on the earth, poisonous teachings, twisted knowledge, and the defilement of creation. With each step he took, the land trembled as if it recognized the power of divine restoration. His hands, glowing with celestial light, touched the earth, rivers, forests, and creatures, cleansing them of the scars inflicted by the fallen angels. The giants, now defeated and scattered, had left deep marks upon the world. Their relentless consumption of the earth's resources had caused irreversible damage. The once thriving lands were barren, the rivers polluted with blood and decay. Raphael's mission was no small feat. The very elements themselves resisted the cleansing power he wielded. But his determination was unyielding, as the Archangel knew that the earth must be restored to its original glory before the Creator. As Raphael worked tirelessly, the cries of the righteous grew louder. Their faith was restored as the very land began to heal before their eyes. Where once there was desolation, now there was hope. Trees began to blossom, rivers flowed with purity, and the earth breathed once again. Yet the work was far from over. The angels could not rest until the final reckoning had come. Raphael's act of restoration set the stage for the ultimate confrontation, one that would see the judgment of not just the Watchers but also humanity, whose corruption mirrored that of the fallen angels. As the earth began to heal under Raphael's divine touch, the skies above seemed to darken with impending doom. The heavens were not finished with their wrath. The final reckoning had yet to unfold. While the archangels had brought justice to the Watchers and their monstrous offspring, there remained one final battle to face: the judgment of the humans who had embraced the corrupted knowledge of the Watchers. The earth had witnessed unimaginable horrors: the sacrifice of innocents, the rise of false gods, and the indulgence of forbidden knowledge. Humanity had turned its back on the Creator, following in the footsteps of the fallen angels. The idols and altars erected in honor of the Watchers and their teachings had spread like a plague, corrupting hearts and minds. Now it was time for the Creator to act. A great assembly was called, where all the heavenly host gathered in the presence of the Almighty. The righteous were separated from the wicked, and each soul would stand before the Creator to give an account of its actions. The earth itself seemed to tremble, for the moment of judgment had come. The faithful, though few in number, stood in hope, their hearts steadfast in their devotion to the Creator. Their cries had not gone unheard, and now they would be vindicated. The angels, with their fiery swords drawn, stood ready to execute the decree of the Most High. As the judgment began, a great light descended, revealing the deeds of each soul. The corrupt would face their end in flames, their wickedness consumed by the divine fire. The righteous would be saved, their faith rewarded with peace and restoration. As the earth stood witness to this monumental event, the final cleansing of the corruption caused by the Watchers and their teachings was nearly complete. But even in the midst of divine wrath, the Creator's mercy would shine through, offering redemption to those who had remained faithful. With the final judgment upon the humans who had embraced the Watcher's corruption, the earth stood still in the wake of divine retribution. The righteous were separated from the wicked, but a new chapter was about to unfold. A chapter where the remaining faithful would have to rebuild what had been lost, forging a new covenant with the Creator. As the flames of judgment subsided, the earth was no longer the same. The cities that had once flourished under the influence of false gods lay in ruins, a reminder of the cost of rebellion. The giants were no more, their bodies scattered across the barren wastelands, their blood and their legacy extinguished. Yet the earth, though scarred, was not without hope. From the ashes of destruction, the remnants of humanity could now rebuild. A humanity that had learned a harsh lesson, one they would not soon forget. Enoch, who had been a silent observer of the unfolding chaos, now stood before the Creator, his heart heavy with the knowledge of what had transpired. He had witnessed the downfall of the angels, the suffering of mankind, and the devastation brought on by their collective sin. But he also saw the glimmers of hope. Those who had remained faithful, who had not bowed to the false idols, who had held on to the teachings of righteousness. The Creator spoke once again, this time with a message of both warning and promise. The earth had been cleansed, but the work of redemption was far from over. A new covenant would be established, a covenant that would ensure the survival of humanity, but only if they chose to walk in the ways of righteousness. The Creator would no longer permit the earth to be defiled by the same rebellion. And so the survivors, guided by the righteous, would begin to rebuild a world where the knowledge of the Creator would once again reign supreme. Yet, even as the survivors rejoiced, they knew that the battle for their souls was not over. The forces of darkness, though vanquished for now, would always seek to return, tempting the weak and leading them astray. The vigilance of the faithful would be needed more than ever. As the earth began to heal from the devastating aftermath of the Watcher's rebellion and the judgment that followed, a renewed sense of purpose arose among the faithful. The Creator's promise of restoration rang out, but the task ahead was monumental. The remnants of humanity now had the responsibility to rebuild not only their cities, but their relationship with the divine. The survivors, who had endured the horrors of the corruption, now found themselves at the crossroads of a new era. They could either continue in the ways of rebellion that had led to the earth's downfall, or choose the path of righteousness that would bring them closer to their Creator. It was a choice that would define the future of the world. The teachings of Enoch, the one who had witnessed the corruption and the subsequent judgment, became the guiding light for those seeking redemption. His words were a warning and a hope, a beacon to those who were willing to rebuild what had been broken. Enoch, chosen by the Creator to serve as the messenger, traveled far and wide, speaking to the scattered survivors. He urged them to forsake the idols, the wicked ways of the Watchers, and to return to the true knowledge of the Creator. It was a message of repentance, but also of healing and renewal. The earth, though wounded, still held potential for restoration. The trees, the rivers, the animals, and the very soil could be redeemed, but only if humanity chose to live in accordance with divine will. But there was still an ever-present danger. The fallen angels, though judged, had not been fully eradicated from existence. Their influence remained, hidden in the shadows, waiting for a moment to once again deceive the hearts of the weak. And so the faithful had to remain vigilant at guarding their hearts and their minds against the forces of darkness. In this time of restoration, the question remained, would humanity remain faithful, or would the same mistakes be made, leading to yet another fall? Only time would tell, but the promise of the Creator's love and justice continued to guide them. The faithful, now tasked with rebuilding the world, stood at the threshold of a new age, one defined by divine guidance and the lessons of the past. Yet, as they looked to the future, they understood that the battle was not over. The Watchers, though judged, had left behind more than just their physical presence. Their corrupting influence lingered in the hearts and minds of humanity. As the earth began to show signs of recovery, there was a rising sense of urgency. The faithful, guided by Enoch's teachings, knew that their actions in this pivotal moment would determine whether they would continue to thrive or fall back into the pit of sin. The land itself, though scarred, could once again bear fruit, but only if those who inhabited it stayed true to the righteous path. The Creator, in his infinite wisdom, began to reveal new truths to the survivors, truths that had been hidden from them during the time of darkness. The faithful were shown the ways to heal the land, to restore harmony between humanity and the natural world. However, this knowledge came with a warning. Those who would misuse it, who would allow greed or power to corrupt their hearts, would bring ruin upon themselves and the world. The earth was in a fragile state. The faithful had to learn how to cultivate not only the land, but their own hearts. For the spiritual restoration was just as important as the physical one. The fallen angels, now confined to their judgment, had left behind a legacy of knowledge, dangerous knowledge that could easily be misused. Enoch's voice echoed across the lands as he reminded the survivors of the price of rebellion, urging them to hold firm to the truth. He knew that the time of testing was not over. The battle between light and darkness would continue, but the faithful now had the tools and the wisdom to resist the temptations that had led to their downfall. As they rebuilt their communities, there was a growing sense of hope. The Creator's covenant had been restored, but it was not a guarantee. It was a promise that had to be earned by living a life in harmony with divine will. Would humanity stay true to the lessons of the past, or would they once again fall prey to the seduction of the Watcher's knowledge? As the survivors of the Great Judgment slowly rebuilt their lives, a sense of hope began to take root once more. The lessons learned from the fall of the Watchers, the giants, and the ensuing devastation were still fresh in their minds. Yet, as time passed, the threat of further corruption loomed over them, a constant reminder of the darkness that had once consumed the earth. The survivors, guided by Enoch's teachings, tried to establish a new way of living, one that honored the Creator's will. Their hearts, once hardened by the chaos of the past, began to soften as they sought reconciliation with the divine. The land, though scarred, began to show signs of healing, and the faithful worked tirelessly to restore what had been destroyed. Still, the shadow of the fallen angels and their forbidden knowledge hung heavily over them. Enoch, the faithful servant of the Creator, continued to lead by example. His messages, now more urgent than ever, were not just words of warning, but also calls to action. The people had to remain vigilant, for the dangers of the Watcher's teachings still existed. Enoch reminded them that even in a time of restoration, the temptation to stray from the divine path would always be present. The Creator's covenant was reaffirmed, but it came with a responsibility that weighed heavily on the survivors. They could no longer afford to ignore the lessons of the past. Every decision, every action they took, had to align with the will of the Creator. The world could only be restored if humanity remained faithful, not just in their deeds, but in their hearts. As the survivors stood at the crossroads of their future, they understood the gravity of their choices. Would they rise above the corruption that had once destroyed them, or would they fall victim to the same darkness that had once reigned? The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The time of judgment was not over. The Creator's justice, tempered with mercy, would continue to shape the fate of the earth and its inhabitants. The fate of the world rested in the hands of those who remained faithful, and the final test was yet to come. Only time would tell if humanity had truly learned the lessons of the past. As we've just uncovered the aftermath of the Great Judgment and the fragile hope that began to emerge, the real challenge has only just begun. The earth, though scarred, holds the potential for restoration, but only if the survivors remain vigilant. With Enoch's warnings echoing in their hearts, their next steps will determine the fate of humanity. Can they truly rebuild, or will the darkness from the Watcher's legacy rise again? Stay with us, because the next chapter is going to reveal even deeper truths that could change everything we thought we knew about the world. The battle between light and darkness, restoration and destruction is far from over. In the upcoming chapter, we'll dive deeper into the spiritual battle that threatens to shake humanity to its core. Don't miss out, hit that subscribe button, leave a like if you're ready for the next chapter, and activate the bell so you won't miss any updates. Chapter 9 is coming soon, and it's going to be a game changer. We'll explore the pivotal moments where humanity faces its ultimate test. Are the survivors ready for what's next, or will they fall to the same temptations that doomed their ancestors? You don't want to miss what happens next. Stay tuned for the next step in this epic journey. Join us for Chapter 9, where the fate of the earth and its people hangs in the balance.